He says he didn't go down there. Is that enough? Yes. With everything else, that's enough. I never went down there. He's in his right mind. I never went down there, Dave. I never went down there, Lord. I never went down there after supper. I stayed up. I took a nap. He goes from taking a nap from 6-7. The next time they met, 6-10, I took a nap. August 15th. You sure you're down there? I was up there taking a nap. I took a nap. I never went down there. Never, ever, ever. You think he would have taken the stand and said, you know, I was down there, y'all, if that video hadn't come out on that phone? Well, no. Now, under Mr. Waters' cross-examination, I lied. Why'd you lie? I wrote it down. I'm still not clear. I had paranoid thoughts. Usually I can take a deep breath and get through it. But I couldn't, so I just lied. Once I lied, I continued to lie. And he continued and continued and continued until 627 days later when he took his stand, the first time he'd ever told anybody. He told his family, he told his friends, he told everybody, and they believed him. I wasn't down there. And why is that so critical? That's the time of death. That's when it happened. That's what the records show. That's when the conversation, yes, it is important. Paul, who used his phone all the time, Paul was in a conversation about the dogs, interacting. Well, send me the picture. He does. And then it stops. Yes, that's what it happened. And then Maggie's phone. A little bit text. She reads that text. I think she went to her car. Y'all decide. Nobody knows. One person knows. She goes to her car. And she's got some rings there she's putting back on. I think she's got 2 rings there, and she's putting on another in the car. Maybe they've been working the kennels. There's one shooter. There's only one shooter. And she hears that shot, and she comes back around. She hears the shot. She reads the last text. Y'all will have it in there. I think she opens the thing about Solicitor Murdaugh. He doesn't. And then you don't see anything else. You don't see anything else on the phone. So is that common sense? Yeah, that's when they were gone. Yes. Yes. When they interact so much. Yes. That's common sense. And that's why it's so important. You want to help law enforcement? You're in law enforcement? I was down there. Y'all know what? I was down there. I didn't take that nap as long as I did. Did you hear anything? Why would you not give that information? Okay, then the 10th, with his lawyer, Mr. Griffin, in the car. Did you go down there? No. Look at him. Is he coherent? Is he under the influence of anything? Is he withdrawing? No. I want to help you. I want to help you. And then on the 15th, here's this video. Here's you in the tree. Now, Rogan says he thought he heard you down there earlier. Well, I don't think so. Why not say it then? Think about it. Well, it's just Rogan's word. Does that make any sense? Just Rogan's word. No, sir, I can handle that. He made a mistake, like Shelley did. Like mark it and close. No, sir. I can handle that, though. But when the video comes out, he's stuck. He's stuck. I'm going to try to wrap up. Yeah. Yesterday morning at 2:53 in the morning, I don't sleep much during trials, but I kind of woke up. And what he did when he took the stand was corroborated that he's a liar. He corroborated the fact he doesn't tell the truth. The one thing that was more important than anything. And you know, they're putting these law enforcement on trial, talking about blood evidence, talking about other things that were presented to the grand jury, which that blood evidence was investigated, and the state didn't offer it. That's what you do in your prosecution. Didn't try to offer it. Now they're trying to put us on trial for doing our job. Think about that. Blame everybody else. Look, they looked into this, and it didn't turn out to be. So now we're going to blame them. We didn't try to present it. Isn't that ironic? They're now jamming us for doing our job. jamming us for doing unto harm. All the evidence of the guns, and I'm going to get that in a minute. The timeline, the incredible timeline, his lies, all of that, the gunshot residue, all of that's presented. And do we make mistakes? Yes. And that happens in life. But you don't lie and misremember being at the scene of a murder when you said you weren't even there, or being at the scene where your family was brutally murdered. You don't lie about that. That's not a mistake. That's not a mistake. This is the state of South Carolina versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh, not the state versus David Owens, not versus Sled. And I want to tell you something. Sled, Walterboro, Laura Rutland's working with David Owens. Sled starts working with the FBI. They're working together. This is, think about it. Rush to judgment. They gave that man every benefit of the doubt. Oh, what are y'all doing? How's it going? You remember that third interview when he was David Owens said, well, and I submit to you, they're taking those interviews where he's trying to come find out what they've got on him. Well, how's this thing looking? How's this thing looking? Well, we've got some shell casings. By Maggie's body, out over there where y'all shot in the range, and some shots out there by the side of the house, the shell casings, they all were came from the same gun. All cylindered in the same gun. You think if they didn't, they could find an expert to refute that, they would have? And Alex says, oh really? So the gun was there? You see his reaction? They all came from the same gun on Maggie. Now the other one, Mr. Griffin tried to argue, Paul Greer, yeah, it could have come from that shotgun. Don't know. Is that credible evidence? But it could have. Not saying it did or didn't, but it certainly could have. He's got that gun. It's got Maggie's blood on it. Don't know if he used that or not. But I know the assault rifle's missing. And Will Loving comes from a fine family in Columbia, I can tell you that. Says we were down here not in March, it was more like April or May. We were shooting his gun on the side of the house and those shell casings. That's where they found them. And lo and behold, the shell casings match the shell casings around Maggie. They were all cylinder in the same gun. They came out of the same gun. They've been in the same gun. Yes, Mr. Waters is right. That's a family-owned gun. And is that incredible, circumstantial, and direct evidence? Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir, it is. That's powerful. You can feel it like the rain. The murderers come in. There'll be a gun there. We'll just use their gun. Does that make any sense? Y'all too young. You ever watch Columbo? When I first looked at this case, this is an episode of Columbo, except this is real. And you get to see one of my heroes, the detective. Didn't always look that good, wasn't all that. But you got to see the crime, and then you got to see him figure it out. And the mistakes they made. And that's what happened here. He killed him. He thought he could get a timeline, but it got him. Within 20 seconds, he's texting Maggie on that phone when he's passing the location of her phone. Is it common sense? He threw that phone out, called her, and threw it, and the orientation didn't go on. They said, if you pick it up, yes. And we had somebody come in here, you throw it rough, and it doesn't come on. And what are the chances it's anything else? He'd almost had to bump into him. Almost had to bump into him. And you take this new story, I was down there till 8:50, whatever, go and take a quick nap, come back. He didn't hear the shots, just happens to come back. And common sense, don't leave it with you. Take it back there with you. I'm down there now, my wife told me this. I'm down there under this new story, and the deal is to come talk, go see my mama at 9:30. And you're right down there. You've just seen them now. When you said before you hadn't even seen them, don't forget that. And you go up to the house. Why don't you say, hey, Mags, I'm going to go see Mom real quick. It's just a few minutes later. No. You go up there. You take a quick nap. You know what? I'm going to try to call them. Let them know I'm going down. Does that make any sense? And then when you get to the why, You'll see the light. When y'all went out there yesterday, those trees are much lower. Go back in and look at the way it was. And I think even Buster said when you get down there, if the lights are on, you can see. Why don't you just go right over there? Hey, I ain't going down there. No? Doesn't hear anything, doesn't do anything. He just takes off. He just takes off. Does that make any sense? We've proved that nobody else could. With that turn line. Does it matter when he's rushing back? Yeah. I doubt he's ever killed two people before. So he's not thinking, he's frantic. Puts the wrong two shells in the gun. Coming back, he's got Maggie's phone. It had been sitting there, that's why the steps weren't on there. He's moving. He gets it. I can't take this phone with me. He's a lawyer, so he tosses it out. That's the only thing that makes sense. And what did he say about Paul's phone when he went up there? You know, I started to get it. I didn't know. I got it out, and then it kind of just popped out too. Does that make any sense? You've got to evaluate everything. You can't believe somebody's credible on one thing. How can you believe them on the ultimate issue when they said they didn't? When the only thing they corroborated for you throughout the investigation, throughout this trial, and throughout Mr. Waters' cross-examination is he's a liar. And that's all you can judge people on. The three witnesses that were beautiful, that were uncontroverted. And one was Paul. He didn't testify to you up on the stand, but he testified through Dr. Raymer, and he testified through his phone. And here's so beautiful of evidence. It's so pure. He didn't know he took that video. That's why he said he wasn't down there. And this is beyond all that. We respectfully submit. Paul knew. Dad, I got some insurance. I got some insurance. Not the kind of insurance you've made money off of. An insurance some clients you gave back and some you didn't. I've got some insurance on you. I don't know why you killed me. I've made some mistakes. You heard a lot of good things about Paul too. I know I put your life, open your life, your fake life with this boat case. Your finances are coming out. I know that. But if you go lie and say you weren't down here, I got you. I don't know when it'll come out. Maybe you'll go ahead and lie. But this is going to come out. Paul had that insurance on him. And maybe that's why he was worried about that phone. And you can't make that up. Because you remember when I asked David Owens, does anybody else in the world know that video was out there except Paul? No, sir. And that's incredible evidence. And it did sit there until law enforcement working together, the states, the local, SLED, everybody, got it out. And that's great law enforcement. Thank you. Yes, and that's when the case changed, along with all the other evidence. Maggie testified to you. He shot me here. He shot me here. And look at all the shell casings around me. Y'all look at them. They're the same ones that Will Loving shot with Paul. They're the same ones that have been shot down there. Yeah. They came out of the same gun. That's great direct and circumstance. And finally, and my daughter-in-law, Sally, and my Aunt Cissy still calls my dad Jack this. My daughter-in-law been married about 3 months, one of the happiest days of my life, because they were happy. They were watching that kennel video. She and her dog Tater. And when Bubba started to bark, that's what my aunt calls him, bed Bubba. Tater bark. And Sally said, isn't it something that your best witness in here are the dogs? You know, some people say they got a sixth sense. You think Bubba knew? You think Bubba knew something? He got Alex to say something. Bubba! Thank God for Bubba. DNA, and that DNA, when people live together, you'll have it all over your shirt. That's not it. But DNA, in this case, that dog negates all. Thank you, Bubba. And guess where Bubba is now? Bubba's with Blanca. Bubba's with Blanca. You can't make that up. And that puts him down there. And that's the lie he told and told and told. I went down there. Why aren't y'all doing something, law enforcement? Why aren't you telling us you were down there? Why aren't you telling us you were down there? Thank you. If he tried to respond to Maggie's phone, as Mr. Griffin said, it would show that he was going to Alameda. He had to get rid of that phone. He had to get rid of it there. Finally, it's about your greatest power. My dad gave it to me when I was young. He said, read it. Your greatest power. You know what it is? Your greatest power is your power to choose. Choice. We've all got it. We're born with it. We use it every day. We use it when we treat people, whether we say, hey, whether we're nice, whether we forgive people. We make good decisions. We make bad decisions. But what my dad always told me, don't blame anybody else. If you make a good choice, that's good. Don't get too cocky. Be humble, but that's good. But if you make a bad choice, you're responsible for it. There are consequences. It's your greatest power. And for whatever was going on in his mind, his world's collapsing. It's coming down. All these worlds coming down financially. He's confronted that day by somebody's law firm. Where's this check? He's got another hearing coming up. It's a motive. Don't have to have it. But yes, there. And is this rational? When he said that, is that rational? Was it rational to be on the side of the road and claim you're shot? And when you're in the ambulance, and go watch this if you need to, and you're talking to the officer in the ambulance, and you say, what happened? Oh, by the way, he wanted to kill himself. He called 911. He called 911. When he told the officer in the ambulance, well, what happened? Well, some guy shot me. He even did a sketch. He faked the sketch. But what did he tell the guy in the ambulance? It sounded like a shot. He's trying his world, and he says there in that last interview with Mr. the call-in interview, Mr. Harpootney and Mr. Griffin, what you got in there. Ryan, I'm sorry, I lied about everything. I was under a lot of pressure, had a lot going on. Really? Your wife and your son were murdered 3 months ago, and now this is the real Alex. Well, my world's coming down. My world, Alex's world is coming down. Been confronted by his law partners. Losing his job. Now it's me. My world's being affected. Not about that, but now. And I'm sorry I lied. I've lied about everything. Richard Alexander Murdaugh loved, I think he loved Maggie. I think he loved Paul. But you know who he loved more than that? You know who he loved more than that? And who he's going to make sure that life, wanted to make sure that life, he loved Alex. And he exercised his greatest power of choice to make sure that life continued or try. And it couldn't. And now, ladies and gentlemen, after his honor charges you, you're going to go back there and exercise your greatest power. Based on the evidence you've heard, the evidence you haven't heard, the credibility, the believability of the witnesses, and especially of Richard Alexander Murdaugh, who has lied and lied and lied and lied, and it's been okay. He got you through. It stops here. We respectfully request it stops here today. No, it's not okay. And we're going to exercise our greatest power and find you guilty of killing Maggie and Paul. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've now heard the evidence and you have heard the closing arguments. Next up will be